There are moments in life when a single small action says more than 1,000 words ever could. A thumb hovering over a screen, a decision made late at night, a digital choice that the entire world woke up talking about the next morning. What happened between Blake Shelton's mother, his wife Gwen Stefani, and Kelly Clarkson is one of those stories that starts as celebrity gossip and slowly turns into something much deeper and more human than anyone expected. This is that story, told from the beginning. If you are new here and you enjoy content that goes beyond the surface-level headlines and actually digs into what is really going on with the people we watch and follow and talk about, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. There is a lot more coming, and you do not want to miss it. Now let us get into it. It started with 5 words on a news alert. Blake Shelton rushed to hospital. No details, no explanation about what happened or how serious it was, just those 5 words sitting on millions of phones across the country at the same time, making fans stop whatever they were doing and hold their breath. Nobody knew what was wrong. Nobody was saying anything official, just that terrifying headline floating out there in the digital world with no answers attached to it. Somewhere in Oklahoma, in a quiet house away from the cameras and the chaos of Hollywood, a mother read those same 5 words. Dorothy Shelton is not the kind of person who lives on social media. She posts maybe once a month, if that. Birthday messages for family, old photos that make longtime fans feel nostalgic, sweet comments on her son's posts that remind everyone where Blake got his warmth and his heart from. She is not a person who posts for attention or drama. She has no interest in that world. So when screenshots started circulating later that same night showing Dorothy's Instagram activity, people who actually pay close attention to things like this knew immediately that something significant had happened. The timestamp was 11:47 at night. Fans from different time zones started comparing their screenshots and got the same result every single time. At exactly that moment, Dorothy Shelton unfollowed her daughter-in-law Gwen Stefani and followed Kelly Clarkson instead. That alone would have been enough to start a conversation, but Dorothy did not stop there. Kelly Clarkson had posted a photo earlier that evening, a simple sunset image with soft colors and a caption about choosing peace and letting go of things that no longer serve you. The kind of content that gets posted every day by millions of people without anyone thinking twice about it. But Dorothy did not scroll past it. She liked the post, and then she left a single comment underneath it, just one emoji, folded hands, like a prayer. No words, no explanation, nothing to soften what it implied or give people a way to explain it away. Just those 2 small, pressed-together hands sitting in the comments section like a quiet bomb that nobody knew how to defuse. Sometimes the smallest gestures carry the most weight. Dorothy seemed to understand that perfectly. Now, a lot of people's first reaction to this kind of story is to wave it off. It's just social media, they say. People accidentally like things and unfollow accounts all the time. Your aunt does it on Facebook every other week. But that reaction misses the context that makes this situation so different, because sources close to the Shelton family had already been saying things quietly for weeks before any of this happened publicly. Things that fans didn't really want to believe, because believing them would mean admitting that one of country music's most beloved couples was not as solid as everyone had been told. The story that kept circulating went back to a private conversation at the family ranch. No cameras, no phones recording, no managers taking notes in the background. Just a mother and her grown son sitting across from each other with a cup of coffee, probably going cold between them. And Dorothy, who loves her son more than anything, finally said the thing she had been carrying inside for too long. The words she allegedly used went something like this: "Son, I love Gwen, you know I do, but I am watching you fade right in front of me, and if Kelly is the one who makes you breathe again, then choose breathing." Those 2 words at the end are the ones that hit the hardest. Choose breathing. Think about what a mother has to be seeing in her child to say something like that out loud. She is not describing a couple going through a normal hard season that they'll work through together. She is describing watching her son disappear, watching someone she raised slowly become a version of himself that she barely recognizes anymore, and deciding that the discomfort of that conversation matters so much less than the possibility of getting her son back. That is not a casual Sunday afternoon thing to say to someone. That is the kind of conversation that can permanently damage a family if it goes the wrong way. It takes a very specific kind of love to risk that. The kind of love that cares more about someone's survival than about their own comfort or about keeping the peace. Blake reportedly did not argue with her. He did not get defensive or try to explain away whatever she was seeing. He just got quiet. He nodded a couple of times and left the room without saying much of anything. And then nothing changed publicly for weeks. The photos with Gwen kept coming. The couple appeared at events like clockwork. Everything looked fine from the outside, like that ranch conversation had never even taken place. But mothers, no. That is the thing about them. Even when the whole world is buying the performance, a mother can see through it. Dorothy had said her piece privately and watched nothing shift. The smiles in the photos kept looking more tired. The spark she remembered in her son kept dimming. He kept fading. And then came that hospital scare, those 5 terrifying words on everyone's phones, and something fundamental changed inside her. The fear of losing her child became so much bigger than any fear of making headlines or upsetting the public image everyone had worked to maintain. So at 11:47 that night, she did what her words at the ranch could not accomplish. 1 unfollow, 1 follow, 1 prayer emoji. The whole thing took less than a minute, but it said everything she had been holding inside for months. The internet caught fire within minutes. Screenshots spread everywhere before anyone could track or contain them. People were zooming in on Dorothy's following list over and over, refreshing the page obsessively, getting the same result every time. Fan accounts started making timeline graphics. People dug through old photos and videos looking for signs they might have missed. The detective work was honestly impressive, even when it got a little bit out of hand. Then came Gwen's response, or more accurately, the complete absence of one. Earlier that same day, before any of this drama unfolded, Gwen had posted a story on Instagram, heart-shaped tacos, cute caption, bright colors, completely normal content that nobody would have looked twice at under any other circumstances. But within about an hour of Dorothy's activity going viral across every platform, that story disappeared, deleted without any explanation or acknowledgement. No replacement content, no statement from her team about a glitch or a hack, just empty space where something used to be. That silence told people a lot, because Gwen Stefani is not a quiet person. She has built an entire legendary career on expressing herself loudly and boldly and without apology. When she has something to say, she says it. When people come at her, she responds. She has never been shy about defending herself or the people she loves. So when the only response to being publicly unfollowed by her own mother-in-law is to quietly delete a taco post and go completely dark online, you understand that something very real is happening behind the scenes. That is not the behavior of someone who thinks this is silly drama that will blow over. That is the behavior of someone who got blindsided and does not know what move to make next. Kelly Clarkson did the exact opposite. She hopped onto her Instagram story with a laughing and crying gif that felt both playful and knowing at the same time, and then she wrote 4 words, "Love you, Mama Shelton." That was it, but the casualness of those 4 words said more than any long statement could have. It did not read like someone surprised by sudden, unexpected attention. It read like someone who had been quietly waiting for this moment for a long time, like an inside joke that had finally made its way into public view. And that is when people started connecting dots they had been actively avoiding for months, maybe even years. Old interviews got pulled up and analyzed, moments where Blake seemed to laugh differently around Kelly than he did around almost anyone else, the way his whole body seemed to relax when she was nearby. Red carpet moments where Gwen stood right next to her husband but somehow felt miles away. Individual moments that meant nothing on their own, but painted a different picture when you lined them all up together. Blake and Kelly go back a long way, years of sitting next to each other on those spinning chairs on a major television competition show, building the kind of chemistry that makes television producers nervous and fans create hashtags. They roasted each other constantly, but in the way that reveals genuine affection underneath every joke. The other coaches would sometimes just sit back and watch these two go back and forth like nobody else was in the room. But publicly, at least, it always stayed professional. Blake had Gwen, Kelly had her own situation, everything stayed where it was supposed to stay. Until, apparently, it did not. 3 days after Dorothy's Instagram activity made headlines around the world, something happened that nobody was fully prepared for. Blake Shelton showed up at Kelly Clarkson's house, not for a scheduled meeting, not for a work obligation of any kind. He just showed up at her door with very little warning, according to people who were there and witnessed it, and he did not leave for almost 6 hours.
6 hours is a long time. That is not a quick check-in between friends. That is not stopping by to say hello while everything around you is falling apart publicly. That is something else entirely. Sources close to the situation said it was not about work, not about planning any kind of collaboration or discussing business. Blake reportedly walked into her house looking like he had not slept in days, like someone running on empty who had finally found a safe place to stop pretending he was okay. And Kelly, being exactly who Kelly is, apparently just let him exist, let him talk when he needed to talk, fall apart when he needed to fall apart, sit in silence when words were too heavy to form. Whatever he needed to do in that moment to process everything crashing down around him, she created space for it, without any judgment or pressure or expectations. That kind of friendship does not get built overnight. That is years of trust, built slowly through shared experiences and real conversations, and being there for each other through the parts of life that never make it into the press releases. Meanwhile, Gwen's silence stretched on, into a second full day, then a third, then longer. Her team released nothing to journalists who were calling constantly for some kind of comment. Her social media stayed frozen like time had stopped on that last post before everything exploded. No cryptic quotes, no indirect responses, nothing at all. And every hour that passed without any pushback or denial just made the rumors grow louder. Because in Hollywood, the general rule is simple. You deny things that are not true. When false stories get printed about you, your publicist puts out a statement quickly. You fight back against things that are not accurate, because staying silent makes people assume there is truth to what is being said. You do not just disappear into radio silence unless the silence itself is saying something you are not ready to say out loud yet. Fan communities split into clear camps almost immediately once the initial shock settled. One side assembled quickly in flooded comment sections defending Gwen loudly and fiercely, standing up for her as an artist and as a person. The loyalty was intense and honestly kind of beautiful, even if you were not on that particular side of things. The other side started producing what they called receipts, screenshots and video clips and compiled moments that they said proved something had been off for much longer than anyone realized. Some of these fans seemed like they had been waiting for permission to say what they had been privately thinking for years. But the reactions that really stood out were the ones from regular, everyday mothers who were not picking sides or analyzing screenshots at all. These were women sitting in their living rooms, scrolling through the whole situation and simply nodding along, writing things in comments like they would have done the exact same thing if they had been watching their own son fade away, explaining that sometimes real love means saying the hard, uncomfortable truth, even when you know it might destroy some relationships permanently. One comment kept getting shared everywhere. A woman wrote that her job as a mother is not to keep everyone comfortable. Her job is to keep her child alive. If Dorothy saw her son drowning, she threw him a rope. The rope made a mess, but the point was never to be neat about it. And that is the moment when the whole story shifted for a lot of people. It stopped being celebrity gossip about famous people whose lives most of us will never understand. It became about something universal, about watching someone you love more than anything slowly disappear into a version of themselves that is barely recognizable, about making the impossible choice between protecting everyone's comfort and protecting your child's ability to breathe, about being willing to become the villain in other people's stories if that is what saving your child requires. Dorothy herself went completely quiet after that night. Her Instagram has not had any activity since. No explanation posts, no damage control, no attempts to soften the statement she made or clarify what she meant. The unfollow still shows if you check. The follow still shows. That prayer emoji is still sitting there in Kelly's comment section, quiet and unchanged, like Dorothy decided she had said exactly what she needed to say and did not owe anyone any further explanation. Details kept surfacing in the days that followed. One that spread particularly fast was the information that Gwen had apparently not visited Blake's Oklahoma ranch in months, not weeks, months. The ranch is not just a property to Blake, it is the place he escapes to when Hollywood becomes too much to carry. It is the land that represents who he was before the fame started, who he still is underneath all of it, and his wife had simply not been part of that space for a long stretch of time. That is not a new development, that is a pattern, something that was already established long before Dorothy ever touched that unfollow button. Whatever is happening now was not created by a single late-night Instagram decision. It was building quietly for a long time, with cracks forming where nobody was looking, waiting for the right moment to finally break through. There's an old interview of Blake's that keeps getting circulated now that people feel like they understand the context better. In it, he talks about feeling lost sometimes, about how all the success and the noise can make you forget who you were before any of it started. He's laughing when he says it, doing that charming thing he does where he makes everything sound like a joke so nobody takes it too seriously. But the tiredness behind his eyes does not match the laugh. People say now that you can see it clearly if you know what you are looking for. Kelly has kept things relatively quiet since those 4 words sent everyone spiraling. She went back to her regular content fairly quickly. Talk show clips, videos with her kids, normal everyday things that don't acknowledge the massive storm spinning around her name. But people are watching every single thing she posts completely differently now, reading layers of meaning into captions and emoji choices and background details. Her comment sections have become this strange combination of normal fan interaction and intense speculation from people waiting for her to finally say something real about all of it.
The bigger question that sits underneath all of this, the one that keeps coming back no matter how much people analyze the individual pieces, is how long was this building before anyone on the outside actually noticed? What were people looking at when they saw the magazine covers and the Instagram posts and the red carpet appearances? What was being missed while everyone was believing the carefully constructed version of things that got presented publicly? Because here is the truth about that phrase Dorothy allegedly used. Those 2 simple words, choose breathing. They are not really about romance when you sit with them long enough. They are not about who Blake should be with or who he loves more or any of the tabloid framing that people want to put around this story. They are about survival. A mother watching her child suffocate inside a life that looks perfect from the outside but feels like drowning from the inside, and finally deciding that being liked by everyone matters so much less than keeping her son actually alive and present and genuinely himself. That is not a small thing to carry. That is the kind of love that will burn down comfortable arrangements happily if the person on the other side of those arrangements is slowly disappearing. That is the kind of love that most people claim to have, but very few people ever get tested on. Whatever comes next for this family, whether it ends in legal filings or therapy attempts or something nobody has predicted yet, one thing seems clear. A line was drawn in the digital world that night at 11:47, a permanent, visible line that everyone can see. And lines like that do not disappear just because they are inconvenient or because people wish things could go back to before. They stay exactly where they were drawn, marking the boundary between what was and whatever is coming. All the individual pieces are still sitting there on the internet, the exact timestamp that everyone memorized, the prayer hands emoji that said everything without a single word, the deleted food post that revealed more by disappearing than it ever did while it existed, the 6-hour visit that nobody will fully explain. Breadcrumbs scattered everywhere, leading somewhere that nobody feels quite ready to go yet. But the internet does not look away from something this raw and this human. It waits, it watches, and it remembers everything until the next chapter shows itself. And based on everything that has already happened, that next chapter is gonna be something.